Welcome to Exposure Therapy, and today my guest is Toronto wedding and portrait photographer Vasko Obscura. Vasco, thank you for coming on today, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the invite. This is going to be fun. My first podcast ever. You're busting my podcast cherry.
Well, I'm actually honored. You know, when I first got into photography, even before I got into photography, and was looking for photographers, that could help me market my business. You were one of the names in Toronto that was sought after, and one of the photographers that I certainly followed from the beginning as an inspiration. So I'm really excited to have you on and just kind of pick your brain and see what you're up to these days.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like several years ago. You were just getting into photography. You were excited. I think you were doing like the mixed martial arts at the time or something, and your transition to photography, and you had a lot of questions. I'm glad to see it's all progressed for you. You're doing well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's become quite the obsession, as I'm sure you can understand.
Well, you got to be obsessed with it to be good at it, right?
Yeah. So, we talked just a little smidgen there about how I got into photography, but what's your story? Like, how did it start for you?
Oh man. Okay, so I started kind of like with my father. My father was an amateur photographer, so he would walk through the park and he would shoot photos, and then he would teach me how to shoot too, and then it just kind of became something I was interested in. But officially my career started when I finished university, and then I got a buddy of mine said, "Hey, you know what? I'm working for this escort company. They're looking for a photographer. You wanna shoot?" And of course, being like your young 20s, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome." So I go to my dad. I say, "Dad, I need to borrow $3,000. I need to buy a camera." So I bought a Canon 20D at the time, and then I had a Nikon flash and some slave flash. I had no idea what I was doing. Right, I was completely out of my depth. I went for the interview, and the boss says, "What kind of camera you shoot with?" I said, the one with the lenses that come off." I shot when I was a kid, right? And then university days, I didn't shoot at all, and like high school, I didn't shoot at all, or very little. But so so I sort of showed up to this thing. I was shooting terrible photos. It was awful. I didn't know what I was doing. But there was this like one girl who came in, and she was really, really sweet, really beautiful, and she was like some flight attendant or something, and she had some eye thing, and she couldn't fly, so she was looking to make some extra money on the side. And so I told her, you know what? My like, I don't know, I'm a good judge of character, and I like to read people. And like all these girls that were shooting at this escort company were just like, they were just addicted to certain drugs and things, and it was really like you look in their eyes and you could just see that they're like, their souls were just, you know what I mean, like that look, like somebody who's almost gone. Yeah. So this girl came in, and she was just young and fresh and beautiful and like spunky, and I convinced her that like don't work here, don't show up to work, I'll take these photos, I'll give them to the boss and whatever. And she never showed up. Boss published her photos in the magazines, and everyone was calling for her, but she never showed up. So I'm grateful that, like, I don't know, like I steered somebody into a better path, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, it was all a big scam. Like I never got paid and anything, so it was just a big mess. The photos were terrible, but I like to think that, I saved one person on that journey. But I got a camera in my hands, right? So that's when I started shooting photos. I started getting into stock and other stuff, and then like photography became like a career from there, right? But
that's right. I remember back in the day, you did a lot of stock photography.
Yeah. I got into it right at the beginning when iStock photo was just starting, and there was a huge marketplace for it. And I was making like $4,500 a month just selling stock photos, and that was awesome, especially being like in your young 20s, right? Like good money.
Well, how would you? I don't know what you think about 2023 in stock photos, especially with the AI coming in and everything. But how did you build your portfolio on stock? And because you say $4,000 a month, and for stock, that sounds like quite a bit. So was there like a heyday for stock photos, or
I think I did it at the right time, it's like the affiliate marketing stuff. If you got in at the beginning, you're probably making good money, right? If you get it now, it's like you're at the bottom of that pyramid, and it's like, But back then it was like crowdsourcing was like a new thing. It was a new term, and iStock iStock photo came onto the scene, and they were like, okay, we're going to crowdsource stock photos. And Getty Images was selling photos for $300-400, whereas iStock was selling them for like $20, $30, $40, really cheap. And it was sort of like there was a huge demand for it, but the pool of photographers contributing was really small. Right. So we were all just selling like crazy. Like I would even take like tools and I would put them on a scanner, and I would just scan them and then cut out the background and put it up on iStock. It was garbage. Like it was terrible stuff. but it would sell like crazy. So now it's different because there's so many people doing it. I think every photographer has like an ice or a stock photo account on the side that they contribute to, right? So now there's just a lot of fish in the same size pool. So it's I don't know if people are still making money like we used to in the day. I met I don't know if you've ever heard of Lise Gagné, a stock photographer out of Montreal. I think it was Montreal. I think she was making well over $1 million a month.
Jeez,
stock photos. Yeah, she was really working hard, man.
Well, awesome. If you're making that, even $4,000 a month sounds like it's probably like a lot of time and effort to put it in there. But $1 million a month, that's insane.
I'm pretty sure she was way up. She was selling so much stuff, man. She was one of the the best performer. I think she was the best performer on iStock. So that was pretty cool.
Amazing. So besides having a camera with the lenses that come off, what was that camera that you were shooting?
Oh, back then?
Yeah.
For stock, it was a 20D. And Canon EOS 20D. I still have it today. It doesn't work anymore, but I should have sold it. My dad was like, sell that camera. It's only going to go down in value. I'm like, no, it's sentimental. And I'm like, I should have sold it.
I can appreciate the sentiment, though. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was an APS-C camera, and I had no idea the difference between APS-C and full frame. You know, I was just starting out. And then I got a full frame camera. I got a 5D Mark II. I put a lens on there. I'm like, whoa, it gets so wide.
You're still working in the Canon ecosystem?
Yeah, definitely. I like Canon. Canon's auto white balance is great. The lenses are great, but the new RF lenses are super sharp, but they're just so expensive and heavy.
Yeah, they're very big.
like this 85 millimeter, like it's a brick, right? Beautiful photos, but then at the end of like a wedding, you're like, oh my god, I don't want to even see you anymore. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, and you get all the added accessories if you use flash, or if you get your battery grip on there, or whatever else you have. You have them, you know, it just starts to get out of control.
Yeah. But I used to shoot weddings with like a 5D Mark III, 70-200, 85 millimeter, and the flash. And I was always like, this is so heavy. I don't like shooting weddings with this. It gets cumbersome after like 6-7 hours on your feet. Mm-hmm. And then when Canon came out with the EOS R, I'm like, this is great. We have a small compact camera. It's lighter, but then they made the lenses bigger. It's like,
yeah, that's right.
I didn't save any weight.
You can't win.
Yeah.
Well, when we're talking about lenses, you actually you have a YouTube channel, which we can get to, but on that channel, you do talk about some vintage lenses that you like to pair up with like modern day cameras. So can you talk about that a bit? That's really interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's sort of like my new passion within the industry. Like these like modern lenses are so clinically sharp. Everything's so perfect, and like it's good for commercial work. But if you want to get creative, like I brought out my my vintage lens collection here. But the beautiful thing with vintage lenses is that they have so many imperfections that you have so much character, and you get chromatic abrasion in the corner and like spots that are weird and halation and things like that. Like this lens in particular is a lot of fun. This is was it Helios 40 or Helios 44? I think it's a Helios 40. And this lens is it's beautiful, 85 millimeter. And it's characterized by this swirly bokeh. So if you shoot at the aperture wide open, and this one goes to f1.5, you get these weird swirly bokehs around your subject, which is really awesome. And I'm yet to master this lens. It's a really difficult one. I take shots and I'm like, oh, this looks terrible, but I just have to figure out how to use it and use the character to my advantage. So this is a really nice one.
Amazing. Where do you pick up these lenses?
Wherever you can, really. You got to hunt around. The thing is, like, before the mirrorless craze, the DSLRs, like the flange distance from the front of the camera to the sensor was deeper. So these lenses it was very hard to mount these to cameras. But now with the mirrorless cameras, the sensor's been moved forward towards the front of the camera. So you can pretty much adapt any lens to a mirrorless camera now. So all these vintage lenses are really sought after, and prices are going crazy.
Amazing.
Like this is my favorite one. I saved up quite a bit to get this one. This is the old Canon 85 f1.2.
Amazing.
And I love shooting with this lens. A little bit of history.
I see on the edge, on the end of that lens, you have a filter. How do you feel about filters on the end of your lenses? Generally, like it's different for vintage versus like modern day lenses, or the same?
The thing is, like the old lenses have like a lot of imperfect glass, so it's like you have a halation filter on them already. For modern lenses, I've heard people say, "Oh, why do you put filters on them?" I know I generally have like a clear filter on all my lenses just in case I bump it into something because I never use lens caps. I find when I shoot weddings, if you're taking lens caps off on, it just slows you down. So I just put a nice glass filter on the front. Um, I'm using a filter here on this one. We have a nice Nisi VND on there to control the light, which is good. And there's also a Tiffin Pro Mist 1/8 filter on this lens as well. So you're getting some halation around these lights. I don't know if you can notice that little glow around thing. So I find it just adds character, makes things look a little more, I hate the term, cinematic.
Right.
Everyone's using that on YouTube now, but I don't want to be part of that cinematic crew. But yeah, it just adds a little extra character to everything.
It's like when people describe their whiskey as smooth. It's like, well, that's kind of a
yeah, exactly.
Cinematic. It's smooth. Awesome. You sent a bunch of images here, and a couple of these are actually shot with this vintage lenses. I'm going to bring this one up.
Yeah, so this image, I love this image, and if you notice in the corners and everything, you see kind of like this chromatic abrasion, and there's a color shift, and there's so much character in there, and that's one of the things I love about this lens. This is a Mir 24H 35mm f2. It's an old Soviet lens, and it's become one of my favorite lenses to shoot with. It's just that the character in the shots is just beautiful. And that was just a lucky shot, man. It was just raining and it just cleared up, and I was just walking around. I just had that, I just want to get out of the house, and it's crossing the bridge, and there's the train, and there's a rainbow, double rainbow. And I shot it, and I just love I don't know if you can, if it translates through the I guess webcam or whatever, but in person, when you look at this photo, it's got so much rich character and depth, and it's such a pleasure to just look at least for me anyway.
It looks really nicely saturated. Yeah.
Yeah,
and this is sorry, go ahead.
I just think that the colors you get from vintage glass, there's something nostalgic about it. Especially, I mean, you and I were probably born in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So we grew up with all those 80s movies, E.T. and stuff like that. And those were all shot with what would be considered vintage glass now. And these old lenses just have that look. And I connect to it in some way, right? Reminds me of childhood. I don't know if you get the same thing when you look at vintage lens photos or not.
I didn't think about it that way, but I can see that for sure. And even just looking at your old, even old family photos, right? Like I talk about my family doing family slideshows, kind of, I think on the monthly. Yeah. And you do, it brings that nostalgia, right? Yeah. So that picture was taken. I'm just gonna bring it up again here. That's it looks like you're on like a Dufferin Bridge over the Gardiner Expressway. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you remember Toronto. Yeah, it's that little walkway that goes over the train tracks and the expressway to the lake.
Nice. Yeah, you get some great shots. That's and that's facing downtown, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, facing towards downtown.
Cool. Awesome. Now this other this other photo here was also shot on a vintage lens.
Yeah, same lens. And if you see in the corners, you get that nice character and that chromatic abrasion. Now these aren't artsy fartsy shots. These are just shots to show off the lens and what it can do, and the colors, and that nice blue sky and the rich yellows, the details in the bricks. It's nice and clear, but it's not too sharp. And they always tend to be sharper in the middle, and then they get a little fuzzier around the outside, which is really cool too.
Yeah. So you started shooting escorts, did some stock photography and stuff, and moved on. And today you're doing wedding and portrait. You were mentioning.
Yeah.
So how did you? What made you decide to get into wedding photography? Because I think it's a charged subject. People love it. People hate it.
Yeah.
What's your position?
For me, it was such a buzz, man. My first wedding was in 2005, pretty much right when I started my photography career. A friend of mine was like, "Hey, I'm getting married. You want to shoot my wedding?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And all I had was that 50mm 1.8 and my Canon 20D. That's all I had, right? And she didn't tell me at the time that there was a professional wedding photographer that she hired to shoot her wedding.
Oh, wow. Okay,
which, as a professional wedding photographer, I hate it when people bring their cousins and friends to shoot weddings. And it's hey, you're paying me to shoot it and you're getting in my way. It's move, right?
Yeah.
So at the time, I was just super excited. I tried to soak up as much as I could. And I know, he was taking most of the shots, and I was trying not to get in his way. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he was just teaching me little things here and there. And he was an older guy, so maybe he was like on his way out of his wedding photography career, and he wanted to pass on some knowledge to me. So he taught me a few things that day, and that really stuck with me. And I just loved it, from the getting dressed at the groom's house to the bride's house to the portraits to the church to the party at the end and the bouquet toss. It's just such a fun experience, and there's just so much going on. And it's also one of those, like, shooting a wedding is like, you have to understand how to use your camera. You have to understand what your lenses can do. You have to understand how to shoot in different lighting situations. So it's like your brain is like going a million miles a second all the time. You're thinking about different variables and different compositions and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. And then on top of that, you have to deal with people. And I love dealing with people. I'm an introvert, like, by nature, but at weddings, I become like extrovert, and I want to chat to everybody and organize this and that. And it just, I don't know, for me, it was like a fun adventure. So I kept with it.
I find that especially in weddings, like the camera is kind of like a safety blanket. You can be naturally introverted if you're just in your day-to-day life, not working. You're quiet, you keep to yourself pretty much. But then when the camera's in your hand, it's that, I don't know, it's like it's that wall there. I can interact with you, but I'm not really being vulnerable.
Yeah. Have you ever had this experience where you're going for like 10 hours, you're just shooting whatever, and the moment you say, "Oh, shoot's over," I put down the camera, it's like you're just ready to power.
Yeah, you're done.
Energy, and all of a sudden,
yeah, you want to come, it's like I get my car, I'm like, I gotta go home, I'm gonna upload these photos, I'm gonna start calling, and no.
Yeah. As soon as your brain says, "Oh, photo shoot's over," it's like you realize how tired you are. The adrenaline fades off. It's like, oh, okay.
I forgot to eat today.
Yeah. Actually, funny story. I shot an Indian wedding. Indian weddings, if you ever get the chance to shoot Indian weddings, are the best. Like those. I don't want to say those people, but like that culture, whatever, they love to party. And this wedding, there was all, like, I guess the friends of the family or whoever, it was all home cooked meals. So everyone brought food, like a potluck wedding buffet kind of thing. And I must have had like 5 plates of Indian food at the reception. I couldn't move. I was so stuffed. I had to like undo the belt, and everything was so delicious. I'd sent out my assistant to go shoot photos. I'm like, okay, this is what I need you to do for me right now. Like, just digest for half an hour.
Yeah, I gotta go to the bathroom. I need you to go cover this for a minute.
Yeah.
You brought a couple of wedding photos here, which are really cool. I'm gonna bring this one up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I really like
awesome. This was an awesome wedding. That's actually my brother there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he got married at the resort on the French River, Northern Ontario. Okay. And after the ceremony, they wanted to paddle off on a canoe. And of course, I have to follow them in a canoe. So I'm in the canoe in the middle, right? And then my brother, I think he was his best man, and another buddy, and they're half in the tank there in this canoe, right? They're trying to pass and they don't know what they're doing. They're all over the place. And here I am with my camera and my long lens trying to get shots, trying not to fall out of the canoe. But it was actually like super beautiful, man. We got some really nice shots on the river there. I thought it's kind of like really a Canadian thing to paddle off on a canoe after you get married. We saw beaver. This beaver must have been like, I don't know, 2 meters. It was huge. I've never seen a beaver so big in my life. I was like, I better not fall out of here.
I was just gonna say, I look at that photo and I think how important a photographer's insurance would be for a situation like that, because you bring your, I don't know, $20,000 worth of gear or whatever you have on.
Yeah.
And if you go over, well, that's over.
It, right? Make sure you have a Pelican case, keep it locked up so it'll float away if
yeah, for sure. Yeah, awesome. Here's another one here from the. I didn't look close to see if it's the same. No, it's not the same wedding.
No, it's a different wedding. This one was actually a lot of fun. This was the groom was the captain of a ship, and the bride was one of the dancers on the cruise ship. But the crazy thing is they contacted me like 3 days before their wedding, and they said, "Hey, we're getting married. You want to just show up and shoot the wedding?" I had never met them, no interview, no nothing. And it was just like, it was like a blind date. I just showed up to this place. And I was walking around. There's like a couple little chapels around there. So I'm walking around. It's like, "Here, are you getting married today? Are you so-and-so? Are you like, I went through couples, and people must have been looking at me like, who's this wedding photographer? He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't even know who his clients are. But it worked out beautifully, man. They were a lot of fun to shoot, and I took a chance, because sometimes you don't know. Like, you show up to the wedding, you're like, I don't know what these people look like. They like, You know, you hopefully that they're they're photogenic, but you never know.
Do you for your different styles of photography, do you have different types of editing? Or do you have like a certain look that now you apply to all of your images across the board?
I kind of do have a certain style. Like with glamour photography, I tried to do a certain, I like a certain look. With weddings, I want everything a little more neutral. With commercial, obviously, you want to keep things a little neutral. And then, for creative stuff, you just go overboard and do whatever the heck you feel like, right? But yeah, definitely. Like even with skin smoothing, with glamour stuff, you go a little more with the skin smoothing because the models there want to look a little smoother. And then you don't want to touch the skin too much. You want it to be more authentic. And again, with commercial as well, headshots, portraits.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. There's like software out now. Like before you'd have to like dodge and burn the face everywhere. But now there's software. You just like one click and the computer just does it all. And it looks like
amazing.
supernatural. And it's like, that would have taken me 3 hours to do back in the day. And now it's.
Yeah, I know. We have this fear of like AI coming and taking over our jobs and stuff like that. But at the same time, we've been using AI for so long. Like you look at, I don't know what editing software you use, but in Lightroom, for example, just select subject, select background, just select sky, and you can darken it, saturate it, remove it, brighten it, blur it, whatever.
Yeah, it's like everything's becoming AI and computational photography. That's part of the reason like I love vintage lenses, because it takes me right back to like the old days where you set up your shot. You have to like focus it. Focusing is going to take you a couple seconds. So you're not just going to go shoot everything. It's like when you have the composition, you're like, do I want to shoot this? Do I not want to shoot this? There's something that I want to capture here or not? Or it slows down the process and it's a lot more fun. I just think like, editing now is like, it's crazy. Like replace the sky, replace the face, replace whatever. It's like, is it even photography anymore?
Brings me back to that the book, The Decisive Moment, Henry Cartier-Bresson, like street photographer. I actually wanted to order that book, but it's like $800 off Amazon. So I was like, I'll just look at the pictures online.
Maybe you can find it on download it somewhere. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for street photographers, man. Like the stuff they capture in those quick moments, and then like sticking your camera in someone's face in public. That's crazy. Like I was watching some Japanese street photographers, and everyone there seems to be very like okay with cameras in their faces. But I know for me, someone stuck a camera in my face, I almost punched them, right? Like,
I can't remember the name. I'm killing myself because I can't remember the name of that one street photographer. He's the famous one, and that's why I'm like ashamed I don't remember his name. But he'll just basically jump people on the street, put the camera with a bulb flash right in their face, like right up in their face, and then take off again. And he's made a career out of that style of photography.
That's crazy, right? I don't know. For me, if someone did that to me on the street, I'd be pissed, right? That's why I don't like doing it to people. But I have a respect for people who can actually like capture good photos in those situations.
But again, nowadays, as you're saying, there's no the decisive moment. But if you have it on like 30 frames a second, you just spray,
hold it down,
right? Then you don't really need to think of it.
Is that fair if you just hold down your trigger like that?
Yeah, it's I guess you always want to make yourself like the best artist. I said in another podcast that I use my stove, but I think it's important to know how to build a fire.
Okay. That's a good point.
You want to, like some people are like, they're really into film. It's like, but we have these tools now that we can use. So the technology is there. Let's use it. But there's, so I don't think it's cheating maybe just to hold it down, but you're not, you're going to get the shot, but you're not improving yourself as an artist, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to get a feel for that timing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a wedding assistant once, and she blew me away. Like her shots were so much better than mine. I loved working with her. I regret that she got married to someone else and left. And working with her, but she just had this feel. It's like, oh, I know something's gonna happen here, and she just put the camera up, and then there you go. She caught the smile or the hug or whatever it was. Amazing. Some people just have a gift for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks missing that. It's like you see it happening, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get that, and then it's gone.
Yeah. You have to have that camera ready. You have to know. You have to anticipate, right?
Yeah,
you can't be reactive.
Fast. You talked about your glamour work and that the models like their smooth skin, but you sent a couple of glamour shots here, so I'd love to take a look at these.
Yeah. First, okay, this is a creative one. Yeah. There was a game that came out, was a year or two ago? Cybart? No, what was it called?
Cyberpunk, I think.
Cyberpunk, that was it. I was like super inspired by it, and all that. Like, it was just so different and weird and cool. So I tried to do like a series of shots like this where I just use LED lights, and I really pushed the colors, and I tried to make people look like cyborgs, or my models look like cyborgs. I think I did an okay job. I'm not like a pro editor in terms of like creating surreal stuff, but I thought, it was a cool vibe, cool feeling with it, like the glowing, what's it called, blush on the cheeks, and then the eyes and stuff like that. So I mean, for me, I love getting creative and just pushing my boundaries. I was trying to find this shot. I didn't know where I'd put it, but I had this like IKEA mirror. I put tape all over it, and then I smashed it, and then I put it up against the wall, and I use a snoot to reflect light off the mirror and then back to the model, and it just shoots all this fragmented light all over the studio.
Nice.
And it just looks really cool, right? And it's those kind of like things where you experiment and have fun that, I really enjoy the most.
So all this was pretty much done like on set, right? Like the colored light, or that's like color grading after the
colored light. The lighting was all done on set. The I guess the eyes and like the makeup on the cheeks and stuff like that was done after.
Right.
It was just like purple and blue lights, LED lights all over the model, and then boom, we got this really crazy coloring here. It wasn't that intense. Obviously, I oversaturated it in post. Right.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prairie View Photo Tours. Prairie View Photo Tours invites photographers of all levels to book their all-inclusive, authentic Alberta adventure at pvphototours.com.
What's been your experience working in glamour with models? Because you've done a lot of it now. You got a lot of volume, and you've actually in that kind of scene in Toronto. You're basically in like a community of what I would say. I think, in my opinion, the top photographers. They're Paul Buceta and crew, and you kind of all do really well there. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Paul Buceta was like, I loved his work when I was growing up, and then I started working. I did some shoots for Muscle Tech, and he was one of Muscle Tech's photographers, and I met him there in the studio, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so cool, and he's an awesome guy. Totally love Paul Buceta. He invited me out to these pool parties, he called them, which were like beach shoots with models and photographers, and it was a lot of fun. But the industry's changed now. I find, like, before you had the magazines, right? The magazines would say, here, we want to shoot this model. Here's a budget. Here, here's 5,000, whatever, 7,000. Get the model, get the makeup artist, get a location, wardrobe styling, and put together the shoot, right? And then the magazine publishes the shots. Of course, magazines have ads, and they make their money back.
Yeah.
But everything's flipped. Like, Instagram completely killed the glamour magazine industry, because, like, why would you buy the magazine to see the model when you can just go on our Instagram and see everything? Right. And then again, like, models, as soon as they get published, they take photos of all the photos in the magazine and throw it on their Instagram.
Anyway.
The magazine's like, well, we can't sell anything. And it just, like, their ads disappeared and the revenue disappeared, and that whole industry just, I don't want to say collapsed, but it just sort of, it wasn't as profitable as it used to be, right?
Is that good? Is that a good or a bad thing overall? Like, it's kind of,
as a photographer, it's
yeah.
Right? Like, the ability to make money in the glamour industry has really, like, dropped. So that's why I don't shoot so much of it anymore. But back in the heyday, it was great. I think it's perfect, like, great for the models, because the whole, like, the middleman's gone, the magazine's gone, and models now with, like, things like OnlyFans or whatever, Fansly, they can just self-publish their own stuff, and then people who want to watch it or see it just go, right?
Yeah.
It's like, who's going to buy Playboy anymore? You can just go to the model's whatever, program she uses to sell her photos, and you just go there and you get your membership and you see all the photos you want. So
but if she wants to sell better photos, she's got to hire a photographer.
That's the thing, right? I'd look at all these models and I'm like, they're all selfie shots with iPhones. It looks terrible, right? Like, you need, the photographer brings a different element to the table. They'll have their own style. They'll have their studio. They'll use lighting. They'll create something that's, I to me anyway, is more beautiful as a photo, right? But a lot of guys, they don't see that. They just want to see the hot girl, right? They don't care what it's shot on.
I think there's probably an element too. Like, if you look at some of the, like, even the short form content and stuff that does well, it's like crappy stuff shot on a cell phone. And it might just remove that, it's like, oh, this is a real person. I can relate, and I can kind of project myself into this, rather than having a professional polished photo. It kind of adds another kind of level of removal, I guess.
Yeah, I find that even on YouTube, man, like, the expectation for quality is just come way down. Like I spend so much time on lighting and getting good lenses and cameras, and I want to have like quality content. But now I find it just like quick and dirty. Just pull out your phone, make the video, edit it, throw it on YouTube, and that's the way. That's what people want to consume now, I think, right? Everything is about. I don't know if that comes across as more authentic or what. To me, it looks cheap, but that just seems to be the trend, right?
Maybe that's all it is, a trend.
Yeah. Because I know when I like 4 or 5 years ago on YouTube, it was all about like how professional can you make your YouTube content work? You know, like can you get good lighting? Can you get nice crisp images? You know, what bit rate are you exporting at? Now it's just kind of like, whatever, just make it look like quick and dirty, throw it up on YouTube. The simple stuff, right? But hey, that's just how it goes, right?
All right. So next up, we have this lovely image here, and we're talking about magazines. This is actually a magazine cover.
Yeah, this is VX2 magazine, and it's at Carly Vanessa Sal, one of my favorite models, spicy Latina. Never tell her what to do, but she just looks at you with these fiery eyes. So of course, I tell her what to do.
Yeah, you got to get that look.
Yeah, so we're shooting for a magazine cover, and we went down to like Burlington Beach. Beautiful one. Like if you're in the Toronto area, Burlington Beach is like a hidden gem. They have like nice white sands. You get nice blue skies, and it just looks very, very tropical, and it doesn't look like Canada, which is nice. But the only problem is there's power lines right behind you over the foliage, so you have to shoot out towards the water. If you shoot back towards Hamilton, I guess you get those power lines. It looks awful. But yeah, we went out there. We did this shoot. We found a nice secluded spot. Got eaten alive by bugs. But it's just like for this shot here, it was all about the expression in the eyes. And I find like a lot of like this is going to be some advice to new photographers, especially if you're shooting in the glamour. Like a lot of us guys, we get excited. We see beautiful women and we want to take shots, and we're like, oh, these are great shots. But the idea is you got to like get some emotion in the shot. You got to get some feeling. You got to get a mood. You got to get a vibe, and that's what really takes it to the next level. So that's the advice I want to give to you is, yeah, a beautiful woman's going to look beautiful, you know, pretty much in 99% of the shots you take of her, but try and like take it to the next level by getting that character in there. And here I was talking to her and trying to like find out what gets her eyes looking soft and seductive and get her to give me that look. And being eaten by mosquitoes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Now look beautiful. Give me those eyes. Yeah. Ignore those mosquitoes. Don't worry about it.
Now, when you're doing shoots for magazines or glamour shoots of any sort, like how many photos? I don't know how many photos do you take? You take as many as you take, but how many photos would you say you end up kind of as your finished set that you end up publishing?
Yeah. That's my biggest problem when I shoot glamour is just I'll shoot 1,000 photos. I don't need 1,000 photos. You just need like 80, right? And I don't know. For me, I just like experimenting. So I get the shot and then I like it. And then I'm like, okay, let me try just this angle. Okay, this angle. Okay, I'm going to try just over here. And I just go way overboard and like eat up so much time. And another photographer I used to work with, and he was super fast. And I always admire him for this, Paul Venomous. He would do like a whole set for a magazine in like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And I really learned a lot from him in the sense that like you have your poses. You want like a lying down pose. You want a side pose. You want an over the shoulder pose. And, you know, this pose and that pose. So if you want to work efficiently, just have your list of poses and then hit the shot in each pose. And then once you're done, then experiment a little bit and then you're done and the shoot. Otherwise, like, yeah, you end up like me and you just drag the shoot on for 2 hours. You don't need 2 hours to shoot 8 shots.
Right. It's nice to experiment. Like, you know, I know that the setting could be different, the model could be different, but if you're always rocking out the same poses, you know, that might get stale too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And another piece of advice is for glamour photographers, if you want to get into it. An older photographer told me this. You remember the model as being sexy for the camera, not sexual for you. And there's a difference between sexy and sexual. Because I know I don't want to say a lot of, but there are certain like photographers out there who get into glamour and then the model comes in wearing lingerie and stuff, and then they get excited in the wrong kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the model is there for work, you're there for work, you're taking beautiful photos, they're supposed to be sexy, you know, for the photo shoot. It's not, you know, don't cross that line and start letting your brain think it's something else. Then you get into trouble.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing too, right? Like we were talking about weddings, being an introvert and having that layer of protection in front of you, that camera.
Hmm.
Well, it's that professional layer of protection, right? You don't cross that barrier.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's photography is a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. If anybody out there's watching this and you're thinking about, hey, should I be a photographer or not? I 2 thumbs up, man. It's a great gig.
The so this one here are you using flash outdoors on this one, or is this just
Yeah.
natural light?
This was one on one of those Paul Bucetta pool parties. That's Rochelle Wild. I think she's been on like 6 or 7 Playboy covers. She was a lot of fun, man. She was so much fun. So interesting story here is we're going on the shoot, and Canadian photographer Richard Dubois was wandering around on the beach. He was with us on the shoot, and his model bailed on him. So yeah, come with us,
No.
come with us, you know. And so we went out into the jungle, and again, models were being eaten up by the bugs, and we did these beautiful shots in the jungle. And I think there must have been somebody watching us because the trees would rustle or something. Maybe some resort staff followed us out there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And for this shot, it was one of my favorite moments as a photographer, because the sun was setting after like a stormy day, and the whole sky was pink. Like I did no color adjustments to this. This was just like the whole sky was just this pink sky. I had a speed light on my my camera. I think I shot this with a 70-200, and it just came out so beautifully. I have a behind the scenes from this shoots on YouTube somewhere. There's if you look up Vasko photography, Paul Bucetta pool party or something, it should show up. I don't know. It's out there. But yeah, it was just to meet Richard Dubois and just talk to him and like be able to shoot with him and like, you know, interact with him in that way was just incredible. He's such a fantastic photographer. Like if I even consider myself here, he's like up here, you know. He's his posing ability and the way he evokes emotions out of people's face. Like just look him up. He's retired now, I think, but his work is absolutely brilliant.
Amazing. You say he's Canadian photographer. Is he from Quebec? French name, is he from Quebec?
Probably. I'd assume so.
Yeah.
Awesome. And this was back in 2010, so I don't remember a lot of the conversation. But yeah, his work is absolutely fantastic. Maybe you could get him on your podcast.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, that's one of my tricks I learned from another person, that he did a blog and he'd interview whoever, and it was in the martial arts industry, and he'd ask like, who inspires you? Who are some of the people that you look up to? And you'd give your list, and then he'd go and interview them.
Yeah,
saves me the work of having to go look.
Tell me your top 5 photographers. Okay.
That's right. Okay. I'm going to bring up some. It's just a fashion photography shot right here.
This is I'm trying to transition into shooting more fashion and beauty type stuff, and trying to step away from the glamour stuff. Just that stigma with glamour. It's awful, you know. It's like I'm there as a professional to shoot photos of this model who's also a professional, and we're trying to shoot beautiful photos. But a lot, like I would say 80% of the people out there, they see, you know, women in bikinis or sexy shot, and they're like, my God, that's so dirty or whatever. It's like you just get stereotype.
I've had that problem. Like I did boudoir shoots for a while, and I put them up on Instagram. And this is maybe just my problem with branding and not wanting to kind of settle down into a niche. And that, you know, I'd have like a boudoir or glamour shot up, and then I'd have, you know, someone that I do, you know, portraits, but for their business. And, you know, I got a private message like, I don't want my business's pictures next to the girly shot. And I'm like, it hurts me.
Yeah. I lost some wedding gigs because of that too. It was just like, you know, I don't like these glamour photos, so we're not going to book you. So now I have a website for my wedding work, and then I have a website for the other stuff. Yeah. And even I got kicked off Instagram about a year and a bit ago. So like all that stuff, all those years of content gone. So now I have one Instagram for the glamour stuff. I have one for my YouTube, one for my professional work, and I just have to keep it separated. You know, it's unfortunate, but yeah.
You're right though. I do in that industry. You know, seeking out models and stuff to do the glamour shots. You just do hear the stories about other photographers and kind of things they do. Awful. And there's some pretty well-known cases, and you know, and I'll see some shots on Instagram today, and photography wise, like as like a photo, it's great, but I see ones like where the photographer's reaching in and like grabbing onto a butt cheek or grabbing onto a boob or something, and I'm like, this is really sending a wrong message.
Yeah, like I mean, I've done that, but only with models. It's like, hey, this is the concept we're shooting. Are you okay with that? Do you want it? But it's never like, you should like never touch a model under any circumstances. If you're a makeup artist or something, you know, or wardrobe stylist, adjust stuff. Yeah, I've heard tons of those stories too, and it's terrible. I wanted to actually make a website and out all those photographers who are creepy with the models, but then a lawyer came up and says you can't do that because unless you can prove they did it,
It's liable or
defamation.
yeah.
But what I found out is, like, if there's any models watching this, obviously in Toronto, there's a WhatsApp group where all the models contribute, and they all talk about their experiences with different photographers. So if there's one creepy guy, they'll all like bring up his name and talk about it, which is good. So I mean, if you're in a different part of the world and you don't have that, once you start like a WhatsApp group, and it's only models, no photographers allowed in there, and they can all talk honestly and like protect each other because you never know, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of creepers out there.
Yeah, they absolutely are. The GWCs they call them.
Yeah, GWC. Just want to get some TNA. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not there for photography.
No. So just coming back to this fashion shot, then let's talk about this one.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, man. Oh, I feel so bad for the wardrobe stylist. She went out and got all this like beautiful BCBG stuff. She didn't know you can't return it. She got stuck with like $8,000 worth of clothing, right?
Oh man,
I'm sure she could have like flipped it on Facebook Marketplace or something, but yeah, you got to watch out. Yeah, so I'm trying to get into the fashion world, and I was pissed off when I got kicked off of Instagram and like lost all my content, but maybe it's for the best because you know now that part of my history is my history, right? And I can start like rebuilding my brand. Because I enjoy fashion. I didn't like when I was younger and I was exposed to like the Playboy models and stuff, of course, right? When you're in your 20s, it's exciting. But when you get older, you're like, yeah, I don't know if I want to shoot this anymore, right?
Yeah.
And the fashion is definitely something exciting for me. And I love like avant-garde fashion and fashion beauty photos and stuff like that. I haven't had a chance to shoot that yet, but I found a makeup artist who's really good at that. And, you know, maybe I can start building my portfolio in that direction. Because that's right now my current passion: vintage lenses, and then like avant-garde fashion and beauty photos.
Awesome. And would you combine those two things, like those the fashion shoots with the vintage lens?
Oh yeah. I want to do that this summer. Like for my YouTube channel, I want to get out there and start shooting some like fashion shots with vintage lenses. It's gonna be tough though, especially if there's like movement in the shot. Vintage lenses, they're not really good at focusing fast. So I guess as long as the model is moving like laterally, it's okay. But if she's moving towards or away from me, it's gonna be blurry. Or maybe add the blur into the photo as part of the feeling, the mood, right? Who knows? Yeah, there's a lot of things to explore, and that's the thing I love about photography. There's just so many things. Like you're the type of person like me, where it's like we're constantly exploring different genres and doing different things. Like I can't sit still, and I can't do just weddings. I'll go crazy. I can't do just glamour. I'd go nuts, or just commercial. I'd go nuts. So I think my passion is just having a camera in my hand. So as long as I have a camera in my hand, I'm happy. I'm shooting. I'm creating. I made the big mistake once of traveling to Rome, and I said, I don't want to carry my camera with me. I'm just going to leave it home.
Oh, man.
I was a miserable prick. I was like, I could have shut that.
In Rome, no less.
Yeah. And that was before like cell phones. That was back in like 2009. So it's like I didn't have a phone to shoot with either.
Yeah, I'm always like, I'm in situations like that, not traveling, worldwide, but even just like going out for a day somewhere. And I'm like, I don't want to bother. I'll leave the camera at home. And then of course you like have a moose that comes up to you, or you have some crazy sunset or something happens, right?
Yeah. That's why I bought this sucker here for that specific reason. This is the Fuji X100V, APS-C, digital camera, has film simulations built into it. Awesome. And it's a little big for a pocket, but you can pocket it if you have baggy pants. And like you just have it with you, man. Like if that moose shows up, you're like, all right, here we go. And it's got all the buttons and dials on the outside, so it just feels like a retro camera.
That's cool.
I recommend that to you if you're ever like, if you don't want to carry your big boy with you, you want a smaller camera.
For street photography too, it's a little bit more discreet, friendly looking.
Yeah. For street, I would recommend the all black one. That way it's not as I find the silver one kind of stands out a little more. It's more of a showpiece than a ninja camera.
So you've been you mentioned a couple of times your YouTube channel on this episode of the podcast. So let's talk about your YouTube channel because I selfishly want to know some of your tricks and tips because I'm also trying to build a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what's it been like for you as a photographer getting on YouTube and building it? How long have you been doing that for?
Oh man, I've had a couple channels and I forget the passwords. That was back in the day, but yeah, 2015 is when I got more serious about YouTube and I just started, okay, I'm going to start creating content and trying to build a subscriber base and just keep going from there. And it's fun. It's fun. The problem with me is that I like to tinker. I like to experiment. So with YouTube, you kind of want to focus on one subject. So with my channel, we started this thing where it was like a variety channel. We got models doing like makeup shows. We had models like this model cooking show, right? So we had models cooking, and of course it's models, so it's fun. It's visually exciting, but it's like there's a lot of fails. We had this one model put she's making chocolate cupcakes, and I think she put 2 cups of was it baking soda instead of sugar. So it was like super salty chocolate cupcakes. It was, and they didn't rise. They just like poofed into like little. Yeah, it was a disaster, but it was fun, right? And I like creating that kind of content, but it screwed up my YouTube channel in the sense that the algorithm didn't know what my channel was about because there was so much stuff on it.
Right.
So I had to move all that stuff off to another channel and get rid of it. You can find it on my blog. If you go to my website and scroll down, there'll be some stuff there. But yeah, and now I'm trying to like just keep it just strictly photography, videography, and I've been growing better, which is good. But I don't know if I broke my YouTube channel with all that content I used to post. Because I see other people and they're growing a lot faster than me, and it makes me wonder, like, did I mess things up? Am I flagged? Does the algorithm think I'm crazy? Like,
yeah, but man, it's a tough haul sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. And nobody knows how that algorithm works, right? Everyone's got their opinion. But for me, it's like I just love doing it. I love creating. So I'm just like pumping out videos, I throw them up there. If they get views, they get views. If they don't, they don't. If the channel grows, whatever, right? Just have fun. I think that's the most important thing.
How often are you uploading onto YouTube?
Once a week. Oh yeah, once a week. Although recently I haven't. I've been doing more short form content. I'm experimenting with short form content to see how it works. Because making one video a week takes a lot of time because you got your real work and then YouTube work. And then so I said, you know what, let's just skip a couple weeks of like long form content and just do short form content and see what happens. No change so far. But
I don't know, sometimes. Sometimes you put up, even with the short form content, I'll have one up and thousands of views, and then the next one it's like 30 views.
yeah, exactly. And it's the same content, right? It's the same style, same topic, same everything. It's like, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I feel like YouTube is like throwing darts, right? You just you throw it out in the dark and maybe it hits something, maybe it doesn't. And if it hits and it catches, takes off. And then sometimes, you make a really good video. You're like, oh man, this is going to be viral. This is going to be great. And then it's like, eh. But that's all part of, I guess, like the fun of YouTube, right? You never know. Yeah. You just got to keep at it.
So
you're starting your YouTube channel.
What's your YouTube channel called?
Vasko Obscura.
Nice. All right. So just, guys, search up Vasko Obscura on YouTube.
I keep everything Vasko Obscura. That's the only way to find me, right? Just keep it simple. I work with these models and they're like, oh, my Instagram is this name and my website is this name and my YouTube's this name. I'm like, no. Just make it all the same. You want to make it easy for people to find you, especially if you want to be found, right? Speaking
of which, where are the places we can find you?
Well, you got me on Instagram, Vasko Obscura. You got me on YouTube, Vasko Obscura. You got me on Twitter, Vasko Obscura. I tried the TikTok thing. It wasn't for me. But Vasko Obscura is there. With an underscore at the end.
Awesome. And then, of course, VaskoObscura.com.
Yeah. And wedding stuff, Vasco.ca.
Vasco.ca.
Yeah, just to keep it a little different. So that's for the wedding headshots and stuff like that. The more serious work, the money-making work. The VaskoObscura.com is for the fun stuff, YouTube and, the fun photos. Yeah, it's fun. It's as an artist, right? You have there's always a balance between the stuff you have to shoot to make money and stuff you shoot to sustain your passion, right?
Yeah.
It's always tough.
Yeah, no,
actually we could just do the passion stuff, right? The passion projects all the time, but those bills, right? They just keep piling up.
The struggle is real.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, man. I want to thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your insights and catching up with you. Is there anything else you kind of want to leave with everybody before we sign off?
I like your beard, man. It's looking good.
Thanks.
A little fuller, thicker. People don't understand the struggle with the beard. Like I have a black shirt, and like it's like I don't even know. Like sometimes you get the beard drift, and it's like you shoot a YouTube video, and you're like, oh no.
That's right. Sometimes I can see, and I got this camera mirrors, right? So sometimes I'll see like this sticking out here, and I'll want to wipe it down, and it'll be this hand I bring up by accident.
You should start a podcast, you know, the beard struggles.
Hey, listen, every time a man shaves his beard, an angel loses his wings. So guys out there, keep it. Don't shave it.
Yeah. Oh, the girls love it, man. Girls love beards.
my wife does love it. She gets upset when I shave it now.
Yeah.
So I have to keep it to stay married, I think.
And divorce if you cut it. If it goes below 1 inch, we're done.
That's right. Yeah, size matters.
Yeah, all right, brother. Notes if there's any photographers out there and you're debating on what you want to do, or you're struggling with the whole process of photography, I mean, you can follow me on YouTube. I do a lot of tutorials, but what I want to say is that just keep at it, keep working at it. There's a lot of books out there, a lot of tutorials, lots of ways to study, lots of ways to improve your craft. So just keep working on improving your craft and getting better, and you'll start loving your photos. So it's a fun hobby, it's a fun job, it's a fun profession. So good luck to you.
Awesome, man. Vasko, thanks again for coming on today, and I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, man. See ya. Peace out.